say anything. You're shocked. You cannot believe that a giant frog is on your football field. Awesome. Brilliant. Hi, I'm Cody Jaret. I'm an independent filmmaker in Los Angeles, California. There's definitely the sense of gratification where you get in the creative flow, you can write the script, and if you can produce the film, then you're kind of seeing that creative idea all the way through to completion. And that's very gratifying. That feels really good. I think anyone with a creative nature would appreciate the fact that independent films, you can do anything. There are no boundaries. We didn't have a lot of money to make, but we had a lot of passion. And that's what makes these films successful. I started out playing music. I didn't come up making films. I came up playing guitar and singing. Alice Cooper was an early influence. That music was incredibly powerful. The theatricals were really over the top. When I became an adolescent, I started watching a lot of films. Two kinds of films really stuck out for me and really stayed in my psyche. One would be like the really big cinematic productions like Rio Bravo or North by Northwest. I mean, the things that were just pure cinema and just visually overwhelming. Those were great. I also had a real affinity for films like Trip with the Teacher, Caged Heat, which are like these classic B movies that had zero budget whatsoever. You could tell that they were doing something from the heart and from the soul, and it wasn't manufactured, it was real. So one of the jobs I had was after high school, I was working for a video wholesaler, and they would buy out video stores and you would go through the inventory and just, categorize these videos. So I'm flipping through this stack of tapes one day and I see this one called Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. And I think, this looks kind of interesting. Okay, forget it. That was it. Then I was like completely, any B movie aspirations that I had before, or any love of B movies I had before, immediately became synthesized. It was unbelievable, because here was a studio film that had clearly been made by someone who had been making independent films forever. I mean, Russ Meyer had been doing independent films for 8 or 9 years. He did Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, Motor Psycho, all these like kind of grindhouse classics from the 60s. And Beyond the Valley of the Dolls was like him with an unlimited budget, but it was like the craziest film I'd ever seen in my life. And right then, that kind of put me on a more independent path. The first thing I ever shot was actually a music video. I worked on a very low budget music video. I co-directed it, and that was a lot of fun. It was an 8mm shoot, absolutely no budget, and it turned out great. And I learned a lot doing that. Then I started a solo project, and there's a magazine in Los Angeles, Music Connection, that used to do this thing called Demo Critique, where they would review unsigned bands. And I saw a Florida band in there that I didn't think was very good, and they got a great review. So I'm like, I can do better than this. So I went in the studio, recorded some new songs, submitted to Demo Critique, and I ended up getting like the best new artist review they'd ever given. At that point, Joel Silver and Rennie Harlan were casting Ford Fairlane. And they didn't want to just use actors in the film. They wanted to use musicians who could also act. So they saw this review on me and called me and said, we're really interested in you for this role. Send us a headshot. So I did. Then it was total coincidence, sort of. I was visiting friends in California a couple months later. I'm like, you know what, I'm here, I'm just gonna call the studio. So I called Rennie's office and said, hey, I'm in California. What's going on with the movie? They're like, come down and audition. So within 2 hours of making that phone call, I was in auditioning for Joel Silver, Rennie Harlan, and casting director Jackie Birch. I did cold reading. They had me sing some Beatles songs, cold. It was crazy. So the audition went well. I went back to Florida, didn't think anything of it, was still planning on moving out here, and then I got the 3 a.m. phone call. Cody, this is Joel and Rennie. You're hired for Ford Fairlane. Get on the plane. We need you here tomorrow. So getting cast in Ford Fairlane was an amazing opportunity. I mean, I came to Hollywood working on a major studio film, and just the kind of doors that opened in terms of acting and music, I mean, it just gave me a lot of possibilities and a lot of options that I never would have had otherwise. So it was great. Ford Fairlane was an amazing experience, but music was still my forte. So I put bands together, we recorded demos for major labels, I recorded with a bunch of different producers. I'd been playing music for a while, and something inside of me just said, you need a different canvas. It's just time for a change. The point where actually making films became real to me was when I was working on a rewrite of a script with a friend of mine. The script was called Surf Broads. It was about these 3 girl surfers and their kind of misadventures down at the beach with, kind of type A macho guys and rednecks and all kinds of stuff. So we finished the rewrite of this script, and I got the idea, why don't we shoot a spec trailer for this and see if we can get this script made? We'll shoot the trailer first, see if we can raise money to make the film. So the first actual piece of film that I shot was a spec trailer for the movie Surf Broads.
This is a story of 3 young girls in a race against time and a fight for their lives. Surf Broads.
So after we had finished the Surf Broads trailer, I was actually working on a studio film. I was a stand-in on a film called The Time Machine. We were on location out at Stevenson Ranch, and they had built all of these man-made lakes. By the end of the shoot, these lakes were completely overrun by these sort of deformed-looking tadpoles. And myself, having seen the Roger Corman film Humanoids from the Deep like a million times, I saw these big tadpoles and thought, wow, these things are just going to grow into like big frog monsters and take over this place as soon as we're finished shooting. So kind of the idea for Frog came directly from that. I began writing the script. As soon as I had maybe 15 pages done, I showed it to a friend of mine who was an actor, and he completely flipped out. He's like, you've got to let me play the frog. He's like, I was a salamander once in an off-Broadway play. I know I can do this better than anybody. And he was like so enthused that it really got me enthused. I mean, the script wasn't even finished then. So I finished the script. I started giving it to people to read, and reaction across the board was really positive. People really enjoyed it. It was exciting making Frog. It was also very difficult because all the responsibility is on your shoulders. So if something doesn't go right, you have to be the one to fix it. It's like, okay, you got to figure it out right now and shoot it right now because you're going to run out of time. One example would be when we were shooting Frog. We were out on location, and we were about 3 days away from finishing when we realized that we didn't have enough actual film to finish. And we also had to pay for the hotel rooms that the crew was staying in. So we were about $4,000 short. We needed money for the film and money for the hotel rooms. I had already put all my money into the film. I couldn't tap the investors for any more money. The car that I drove at the time was a beautiful 1962 Ford Thunderbird. I loved this car. I had to sell the car so we could buy film to finish the movie and pay off the crew's hotel bills. So it was definitely heartbreaking to sell the Thunderbird. I mean, I really loved that car, and it's hard when you like have to do something like that. But it paid off. It really paid off. Because I sold the Thunderbird, we made the movie. Great things happened that I never would have imagined. The film came out on DVD and Netflix in the United States. It became a midnight movie hit in Los Angeles. It won Best Feature Grand Jury Prize at the New York Film and Video Festival. And we got on the Jay Leno show with it. The film is Frog. It just came out on DVD. Frog is, as a matter of fact, the most advanced amphibian on the face of the earth.
Oh, really?
And his favorite pastime is mating with human women.
How drunk does a woman have to be to this frog?
One of the great things was having an actual costume that the actor would wear. So we would bring the frog places, and people loved it. Maybe one of the best things we did was crashing the Michael Jackson trial. Anywhere the frog went, he got this huge response. So it was the last days of the Jackson trial. You had maybe 300-400 really bored reporters hanging outside of the Santa Barbara courthouse. The second the frog stepped out of the SUV, 400 reporters from around the world just converged on him. You've never seen anything like it. The frog instantly became worldwide news. It became a huge cult hit in Japan.
Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men, Frogman.